Go inside the Crimson Tide with your hosts Rodney Orr and Gary Harris, keeping you informed on everything Alabama. Tider Insider TV, brought to you by Visit Tuscaloosa.
And hello again, everybody, and welcome into the latest edition of Tider Insider TV. This is the Game Week edition. How I love saying that. Brought to you by Visit Tuscaloosa. Find out more at visittuscaloosa.com. I'm Gary Harris. Rodney Orr from TiderInsider.com is with me, and we made it to Game Week, Rodney, and Alabama is getting set to host Western Kentucky on Saturday evening in the first game of the Kalen Deboer era here in Tuscaloosa. Alabama will kick it off against the Hilltoppers at 6 o'clock Central Time on ESPN inside Bryant-Denny Stadium. Of course, week after next, they'll dedicate Saban Field in the South Florida game. Now, here is some video from Tuesday's practice. The Tide working out in shells at the Thomas Drew practice fields, and the Crimson Tide is relatively healthy for this one. Guard Jaden Roberts, who had a little deal with his hand, is expected to play, as is Jam Miller. Jeremiah Alexander, the linebacker from Thompson High School in Alabaster, was the only player that Coach Deboer said yesterday they didn't expect to go, but said he is close to returning. So, with that being said, Rod, let me bring you in for some analysis. Fall camp ended when school started back. Now it's game week. Where is Alabama really strong? Let's start with the positive. When you look at this team from position groups, where is Alabama, in your opinion, its strongest?
You know what? That's a great question. I would say this, Gary, as you're asking that question. Obviously, in the trenches is where you want to be strong. I look at this offensive line. I think potentially they have a chance as they develop to be really, really strong. And I said this last March when we walked out there for that first observation for spring practice. The defensive line, the numbers they have. Now, again, I'm not going to compare them to, say, the 2015, 2016 groups that had a lot of first-round draft picks, okay? But they've got some depth, they've got some quality, and they've got some really good athletes up front defensively. I think that's where you want to start. I think those are two strong areas. Obviously, you return an experienced quarterback. You've got a great running back room. I think you've got some talented wide receivers. You've got some great inside backers, Deontay Lawson, Jahad Campbell, Justin Jefferson. You've got some things to work with. In the secondary, a lot of talent, but a lot of youth, a lot of inexperience.
Yeah, Tyler Booker said today after practice that the offensive line can be great. He said it's up to them. I know they said a lot of that same stuff last year. Then they gave up the fifth most sacks in FBS. But the talent is there. They're probably going to play both Formby and Pritchett at right tackle, but the other four spots are set. And when you look at this group practice, the offensive line, Rodney, the size is there. The talent is there. Everything is there other than this particular group hasn't proven it together. But as you alluded to, this should be a strength. And when you're strong up front on the offensive line, everything on the offense kind of generates from that. I know they want to, after giving up that many sacks last year, you got an athletic quarterback. You want to give him a little more time to operate under center before he feels the rush.
Yeah, I think when you look at the interior, it's really strong. It may be the best interior offensive line in the country when you're talking about Parker Brailsford, who was an All-Pac-12 selection last year. Second team is a redshirt freshman at Washington. Now here, you've got Jaden Roberts. You mentioned him. What a season he had when he was inserted in the Texas A&M game. There you see Caden Proctor, number 74, at the left tackle. But that left guard, Tyler Booker, I think he's the heart and soul of this offense. I really do believe that. It's a really strong interior part of the offensive line with Proctor at left tackle. Now, again, the inexperience at right tackle. You got, as you mentioned, Wilkin Formby, Elijah Pritchett, two really good young players. I think they'll continue to probably compete the early part of the season.
All right. Position groups that are really strong. You already alluded to the secondary, maybe as a group that has a question mark. Anywhere else that you say, yeah, I'm curious to see how they perform in this first game.
Well, I think defensively overall, I'm really curious to see, because you had 17 years of Nick Saban. Certainly nothing. Kane Womack's done a fantastic job everywhere he's been. But I think defensively, a lot of people want to see how do they kind of look under Kane Womack. With that said, too, Gary, you mentioned the secondary again. A lot of talent there, but the pass rush. I think they can get some pass rush from their down linemen, but where's it going to come from the outside? Are they going to move Justin Jefferson or Jahad Campbell out there to get some pass rush? Keanu Cook, Quandarius Robinson. Who's going to produce that outside pass rush?
Ronnie, we'll have our predictions, our score predictions later on in the show. But before we get to coach talk, you know, it seemed like for a while that we were breaking a new coach every few years because Alabama was. Now, this hasn't happened since 2007 when Nick Saban ran out of the tunnel for the first time. Kalen Deboer is going to come out of that tunnel. It's going to be completely different and new. Just how much anticipation do you have just to – because everything, for the first time in a long time, there are questions simply because we've never seen this particular coaching staff in action.
Yeah, I don't know that I have questions about this staff because I think when you look at the overall track record of these coaches, you start with Kalen Deboer. He's, 104-12. He's won everywhere he's been. Kane Womack's been successful. I really like Nick Sheridan and some of the other staff members. They've had success. Mo Lindquist is former head coach at Buffalo. So I think they've got a lot of great experience. It's not so much the staff. It's just the change. We're used to Nick Saban, the way Nick Saban did things, whether it's going to practice, the interviews, however they were done. A lot of things are a little bit different. That's not natural. How are they going to look different on the field?
Yeah.
That's what we're looking forward to.
Well, I think based on the results, I hope they don't look too much different.
Style.
I know.
You're going to have the same results.
All right, now it's time for Coach Talk. And obviously, this is different for Kalen Deboer. Even though he's been a first-time head coach, several times in his career, now he's wearing the famed crimson and white. And there's going to be nothing that he's ever experienced in coaching like he's going to experience on Saturday night. That is just the reality of it. He was asked yesterday at his press conference what he's learned about himself that he is keeping with him for this first game since he was named the head coach of the Crimson Tide.
I think you just always are confirming the things that you believe in, whether it's football related, whether it's just staff related, and how you bring a team together. You just always trying to adjust and evolve, but also confirm the things that are like your real deep beliefs. And a year ago, a lot of those things continue to just be verified. And as we bring it together, you kind of look to those things and are counting on those things to help build this team.
All right, a big note on Western Kentucky. Tyson Helton, the head coach, has named that young man. TJ Finley is the starting quarterback. Certainly Alabama fans are familiar with him. He played against Alabama when he was LSU. He played against when he was at Auburn. Last season at Texas State, he lit it up. And now he's at his fourth school. Remarkably, Rodney, he's still just listed as a junior. Right. This is a different world that we live in now. As I said before, you look on that roster, don't ever go by what it says. Guys play 5, 6, 7, 8 years now. No. But anyway, but he is, he's a guy that was looking to find his niche. You thought he found it last season at Texas State when he completed 67.4% of his passes for 3,439 yards and 24 touchdowns. He also ran for 5 touchdowns. But, Rodney, he's on the move again. I wonder what it was that you had that much success last year, yet he's going to Western Kentucky. I guess maybe it's that offensive history of that program. They are always, it seems like it's the Bobby Petrino system that they run there. They've always been pretty good on offense.
Yeah, they have, and he did have a lot of success. You're talking about T.J. Finley last year, threw for over 3,400 yards. Gary, 24 touchdowns, just 8 interceptions. Now he's in this great system with Tyson Helton. They lit it up last year. Listen, the last 2 years, Austin Reed, who was their departed quarterback, he threw for over 8,000 yards and 71 touchdowns in those 2 years. I fully expect them to come out. They're going to sling it. They will challenge that young secondary.
Yeah, 8-5 a season ago, including a credible comeback win over Old Dominion in the bowl game that they had, 38-35. Interesting note here. Former Alabama offensive lineman Will Friend, who started 4 years on the offensive line, that's very rare, is now the offensive coordinator there. Of course, he's been in several different programs in the SEC. But so in addition to having that powerful passing game, and they're going to be strong up front too because he's an O-line coach by trade.
He is, and Gary, talking about how far back you and I go, I remember when he was recruited, you covered him in high school. And that's a long time ago.
Neshoba Central High School, Philadelphia, Mississippi. Remember him well, and hope to get him on my radio show this week. And he said no, said he was too busy getting ready to play Alabama. Imagine that. All right, Killtoppers were picked to finish second in the preseason Conference USA poll by the media. Well, still to come on Tider Insider Television, Alabama Volleyball is ready to get the season started. We'll preview this weekend's Crimson Invitational. And Miami of Ohio football coach has made some news because of some allegations. Not allegations, just flat out he just came out and said it. He said Alabama stole his kicker. That kicker's Graham Nicholson. We'll have the details when we come back. Also, we'll be getting your phone calls, emails, and tweets. There you see the phone number, 205-348-WVUA. That's 348-9882. Or you can email us at the address on your screen, TITV@WVUA23.com. We'll be right back with the show that takes you inside the Crimson Tide, Tider Insider TV.
All right, special teams, lost your kicker. Carter McLaughlin.
We didn't lose him. He's at Alabama. We know exactly.
I understand.
We know exactly where he's at. You media people, it's all pretend. Like, no, Alabama stole our kicker.
They
illegally recruited
I didn't want to say it,
They
Coach.
illegally recruited our kicker and stole him from us. And like that's a fact. But but we act like it's not. We live in this la world. Like, hey, let's not talk. I don't know why everybody knows what's going on. So, yeah, Alabama stole our kicker.
TITV brought to you by Visit Tuscaloosa. Alongside Rodney Orr, I'm Gary Harris, and that was Miami of Ohio football coach Chuck Martin just coming out and flat out accusing Alabama of tampering with kicker Graham Nicholson, who's now at Alabama. Nicholson committed to the Crimson Tide in April following the end of spring practice. He is expected to be Alabama's starting kicker on Saturday night. What's interesting to me about this is that Miami signs some players out of the portal. Our schools do. I mean, the guy, I hate to say it like this, but he just comes across like a clown there. Like he's trying to make some news. I doubt very seriously Alabama had to contact Graham Nicholson illegally. And Nicholson might have heard there was an opportunity for a kicker at Alabama. He goes into the portal, and Alabama signs him. That's just the way it is.
Well, I mean, look, he was a Lou Groza Award winner, right? I mean, he's familiar with Will Reichard. He knew Will Reichard was leaving. There's an opportunity at Alabama. I don't know if there was any back channel talk between people. Sometimes that happens, and I'm certainly not saying it happened in this case, but Gary, it happens all the time. Caleb Downs ended up Ohio State. Mm-hmm. You don't think they already offered him a big NIL deal while he was still at Alabama? He wouldn't have probably left for Ohio State if he hadn't known that. So this is going on in college football. We talked about this on this show 4 or 5 years ago. We knew this was coming. We said, you better hire a retention staff because you're going to have to keep your players.
Yeah, for Coach Martin, listen, I know he's a good football coach. He's been there a long time, and as I said, he comes across as a clown. I'm not saying that he is a clown, but I think that was, I think that was done to generate some headlines, which he did. All right, Coach Deboer was asked about last week following practice about Graham Nicholson and whether Alabama contacted him illegally.
I don't know anything about that, I guess, that comment. I mean, he entered the portal and we reached out to him. So that's how it goes, right? So we did everything the way you're supposed to.
All right, we're going to move on from that. I think Coach pretty much said it all. He's in the portal. We contacted him. We signed him, and that's all I have to say about that. Yeah, it is. All right, let's talk some Alabama women's volleyball because the season is right around the corner, and Alabama is looking to get better in the sport of volleyball. There's no doubt about that. 24-25 season is something where Alabama gets the season underway coming up this weekend with the Crimson Invitational at Foster Auditorium. Alabama looks to get off to a strong start at home this season following last year's 11-18 finish. Alabama will open action at 12:30 on Friday against Grambling State, followed by a 7 p.m. match that night versus the Citadel. And Alabama will wrap up the weekend tournament on Saturday, playing host to UT Martin at 2 p.m. So you can check out Alabama volleyball on Saturday afternoon. They'll be done in plenty of time for the football game. Like I said, looking to get some improvement in that sport this season at Alabama. Well, still to come on TITV, Alabama soccer back in action at home. Highlights from that one coming up. And up next, let's get some phone calls rolling in here. It's game week. I'm told the phone lines are wide open. 205-348-WVUA. That's 348-9882. By all means, give us a call. We want to hear from you. Your thoughts on the game, Alabama versus Western Kentucky. TITV@WVUA23.com is the email address. Give us a phone call. We'll get you on in the next segment. We're coming back after this. On Sunday, Alabama soccer picked up its third win of the season, beating Chattanooga 4-0 at Chattanooga. Early on, it's the junior leader, Gianna Paul, who puts it in the back of the net. Alabama led 1-0 in the first half. Right before halftime, graduate senior Kate Henderson bends in a shot to make it 2-0 Crimson Tide at the break, and Alabama cruised to their third win of the season, and head coach Wes Hart picked up his 100th win at Alabama. And welcome back into TITV, brought to you by Visit Tuscaloosa. This note, Rodney, this is, we came on in 2000. with this show. So this is our 24th year, our 25th football season.
Unbelievable.
It really is. I was 35 years old when we started the show.
Mike Dubose' last year.
Yeah. Yeah, how about that? We've been through a lot of coaches here. But since 2007, it's been a pretty good run. All right, let's jump out on the phone lines. And phone lines are open, by the way, 205-348-9882. Tommy in Romulus is going to lead us off. Hey, Tommy.
Hey, guys. How y'all tonight?
Doing well.
Well, the concern I have about Saturday game is the secondary. Are those portal transfers going to be starting, or do we have any idea? We know who the 13 is going to start, but I mean, because I know Western Kentucky loves to throw the ball around.
Yep, Tommy, they do. Rodney, no depth chart has been put out yet. Let me say that. So we usually got it from Coach Saban the Monday before the first game. Was not given out yesterday. Do you have a feel for who you think will start in secondary?
I really like who they've got. Again, they haven't released a depth chart officially, but when you look at those safeties, you talk about Malachi Mori, his experience. Keon Sabbs, great player, transferred in from Michigan. Damani Jackson has starting experience at USC. I think he's a potentially star at corner. And then you've got the young players. You've got Deshaun Jones, a transfer from Wake Forest. You've got the three true freshmen, Xavier Brown, Zay Mincy, Jalen Mbakwe, Devontae Smith at the star position. Now it's the Husky position. Also Red Morgan, another true freshman that's there at that Husky spot. So a lot of youth, and he talked about how are you going to really kind of get T.J. Finley out of sync. They're going to give him a lot of things to try to build his confidence early. You know that. But I think, Gary, what you have to do is you certainly got to get pressure on him. And the thing about him, you remember how K.J. Jefferson, how big he is. This guy's bigger. I mean, he's 6'7", 250 pounds. Getting him on the ground is really tough. Yeah,
I think that's probably the best help for the secondary to put pressure on this guy. And like you said, get him out of the rhythm because he can settle in. He can be dangerous, that's for sure. All right, let's go up to Walker County and talk to our buddy Sammy. Hey, Sammy.
Hey, Gary, Rodney. Great job, guys. Starting off the season right and everything. I just want to add a statement to the new season. The offense, I think, with Kalen Deboer will just start off. I believe it'll be just fabulous. But I'm most looking forward to the defense, see if they attack, see aggressive, blitz, whatever. What do y'all think about that?
What about it, Rod?
I think you're on top of it, Sammy. I'm expecting a really hard-hitting, physical, aggressive defense. A lot of the things you said, blitzing, trying to create plays, turnovers, negative plays. I think you're going to see defensive linemen more involved. I'm like you, Sammy. I want to see Jaheim Otis in this defense. I want to see L.T. Overton, the transfer from Texas A&M. So many guys. Tim Keenan, who's back. Damon Payne. We could go down the list. I'm really interested, Gary, and Sammy kind of touched on this a little bit or alluded to it. How many guys are going to play? I mean, if you listen to what Kane Womack says, it sounds like they could play several in the secondary. We're not really used to that.
Right.
So it's going to be really interesting to see what their philosophy is in terms of getting guys on the field.
All right. Still to come on Tider Insider Television, an exciting weekend for former Crimson Tide outfielder Tyler Gentry. More on his debut and the bigs coming up next. And we'll be getting to more of your phone calls, emails, and tweets. Again, there's the information. The phone number 205-348-WVUA. That's 348-9882. Phone lines are open. We'll be right back with more TITV after this timeout. And here we are. Rodney, you're a celebrity, man. Bring you right back here on by yourself. All right, welcome back into TITV. Let's get to our email question of the day. And our email question today is brought to you by KDM Service Corporation. When it comes to heating and air conditioning needs, KDM Service Corporation serves your family like our family. And our email question of the day is from Tammy in Northport. I'm sorry. I got ahead of myself. Can players enter the portal during the season? Rodney, it's my understanding that they cannot.
No. In fact, Gary, maybe we talked about this last week. They're talking about doing away with one of the portal periods where you would only have one.
I hope
and that would be in December. So we'll see.
I hope they do.
Yeah.
I just think it's been too easy for players to leave. Not that you shouldn't have an option, but not the way they've been able to do it lately. All right, let's get back out on the phone lines. And Putty is with us from over in Alabaster. Hey, Putty.
Hey, Rodney. Hope y'all are good.
Thanks.
Hey, I wanted to know if my memory's right that Jalen Milroe last year had held onto the ball maybe longer than any quarterback in the country, and I'm just wondering in y'all's opinion if that accounted for some sacks, and also has the new offensive staff helped him with a quicker release?
All right, Putty. I'm not familiar with those stats. I do know he took a lot of sacks. I think some of them were on him, some were on the offensive line, and sometimes it might have been wide receivers not being open. So I think probably a combination of those. But yes, I think in this offensive system, there is a premium on getting the ball out on time, and it's set up to have some quick options in the pass game. So I expect him to have more success getting the ball out of his hand, a higher completion rate, and less sacks.
Yeah, and I think you're right. I think that's something to do. They've worked on is getting the ball out of his hands really quickly, making quick decisions. And I think, too, Putty, you have to also kind of consider this. Jalen Milroe wasn't really the quarterback until the fourth game last year. I mean, there was still, the cake was baking, remember?
That's right. I do very much so.
I don't even know that they really narrowed things down till there were 4 games in. I mean, that was really tough last year. It was tough for Tommy Reese. It was tough for Jalen Milroe. So, and the offense as a whole. They've gone through spring practice. Now they've gone through fall camp. I'm really looking forward to seeing how Milroe's making that adjustment.
I'm with you. I think he's going to thrive. I really do. All right, let's get to an email. And this one is from Caleb and Helena. Caleb Cunningham doesn't seem very committed. Thoughts? I think that probably comes from the news today. The wide receiver out of Mississippi who's committed to Alabama is going to visit Ole Miss this weekend for their season opener.
Gary, what have we said all along?
You said it all the time, yeah.
You know, these kids are going to continue to take visits, especially when we have the experience of these Mississippi kids. I mean, it just kind of seems like they do that. And he's going to visit Ole Miss. He's probably going to be at Mississippi State quite a bit. He lives 25 minutes from Starkville. But right now, I mean, I think he's firmly committed as they come. But it's going to be a long process. We've talked about that.
All right. Thanks for the phone calls and emails. Still to come, the annual Pigskin Kickoff event was last night at Tuscaloosa University Church of Christ. We'll have that coming up for you. And we'll be getting our game picks. Who do we think is going to win and what will be the scores? We'll have it for you coming up next. All right, almost out of time. A couple quick notes. Tyler Gentry, former Alabama outfitter, caught up by the Royals. John Hanna was the featured speaker last night at the University Church of Christ Pigskin Kickoff event. We just got a couple of seconds to make your pick.
You know what? Western Kentucky really struggled to stop the run last year. They're not stopping it Saturday against Alabama, 44-17.
Well, you know, the line is 30.5. I think that's just about right. I got Alabama winning this one 52-20. I think the Tide is going to score a lot of points, but I think before the game's over, Western Kentucky is going to get a few points as well. All right, that's going to do it for this week's edition of TI TV. We'll see you again next Tuesday night. For Rodney Orr, I'm Gary Harris. So long, everybody.